Social workers have always been doing policy. For some reason, over the last couple decades, we haven't been as much involved in policy, but I think that's changing. The grand challenges for social work sort of lays out challenges and re-energizes the policy focus for in these areas. So you can think about this program today as being one small part of the grand challenges, because child accounts are proposed as one of the directions in actually a couple of the grand challenges. So I'm just going to try to make a few key points about what this is about. The origins of this work started with a proposal, really a focus on that we should be thinking about households building assets and not just income support. Income support, really the dominant idea of social policy in the 20th century. A great idea. So, and this is really not a comment about income support not being terrific, and certainly we would never propose, reducing income support. But in addition to that, households also need to be building assets. So that was 30 years ago a pretty different idea, and took quite a long time just to get that idea on the table, have a discussion. And we've made some progress in doing that. So now people do talk about assets. Social researchers measure assets and asset inequality. This work that we're talking about here today is really coming out of that initial vision about where all this could go. And it really is the idea that lifelong asset building is an important policy. We do have asset building policies in America, really substantial ones, but poor people don't participate. So what the point here is not that we want to create something for the poorest children, something new. Not really. What we would like to do is bring the poorest children into the same policies that are benefit the rest of the population. So asset building for everyone, particularly asset building for people who are impoverished and for people of color, because these populations have been excluded, and I will say systematically excluded from the ability to accumulate those assets. Social workers bring this clarity more than any other group about what's happened here with our history, how have people been excluded, and what can we do to not make that right, but provide some remedy so people can improve their well-being going forward. Why do we propose kids accounts specifically? It's good for the kids. They have better social development. It appears to be good for the parents. The parents have a more positive outlook on their kids' educational opportunities and possibilities, and a number of other positive effects. I don't want to overstate this. It's not like this is a solution to everything, but you get, for a relatively small investment, you get a series of positive effects on child development and family development, and the money really hasn't even been spent yet. The money is still accumulating for that child's education. As a result of this evidence, we now have 6 states with some form of child development accounts statewide. 2 of those states are opening accounts for every baby at birth. This is a really energetic and growing discussion in America. So we're here today to talk about a possible federal facilitation of a policy energy that's already happening at the state and city level. This is a structural idea, and it requires thinking about it in a structural way. So if you set up a social policy that changes distributions of assets, you're not really going for an individual solution. You're really going for setting up a structure so that things can be better for more people. Creating a universal child development account is like plumbing. Run the pipes to every house. We actually have this plumbing in America, and I'll talk about that. We haven't hooked up all the houses to the plumbing. We're not running the water to every household. So I will argue that we have this, and it's a public good, and we should take advantage of it. It's the college savings plan structure, where all the states that now have statewide programs are using this structure, and college savings plans that have so far, this has been a really regressive public policy. 529 structure is like all the asset building policies we have in America. It's like, my retirement account, tax deferrals, home mortgage interest tax deduction. These all benefit mostly people at the top. These are large public expenditures. Probably now over $500 billion a year. Over $500 billion a year, almost all this money, 90% of it goes to the top 10% of the population. Actually, most of it goes to the top 1% of the population. So we have these policies. We transfer, if you think about the plumbing, we move a lot of water through the pipes, but that water is not going to every house. That policy structure exists, and that's why we're so interested in using a 529. So the 529 structure has been regressive, it's been exclusive, so only a few people participate, and they're wealthy people, or they're college professors like me. I put money in there for my kids and my grandkids. But poor people don't benefit from this. It's important to understand, I get tax subsidies. I get public benefits for saving for my kids' education. And do poor people get the same public benefits? And then you have to ask, well, what kind of public policy is this? Is this sensible public policy? Well, no, not really. And then in the context of this discussion, do we have an alternative? Yes, we do. We have a structure there. Think about it as the plumbing, a public good. It's already there. You don't have to rebuild it. What you have to do is put people in it. And once people are in it, all kinds of things are possible. You can begin to ask questions like, well, we have several $100 billion a year in asset building policy in America, but why don't we make that like fair, like everybody gets the same amount? And if everybody's hooked up to the plumbing, then you can say, well, let's move a little more of the water over here from over there. It becomes a much easier discussion. It also becomes possible to begin to address historical injustices. So I think, for example, a discussion about reparations, I'm in favor of some form of compensation to populations that have been enslaved, killed in large numbers, and we're talking about African Americans for sure, but we're also talking about certainly about Native Americans. Very negative history about white colonization of this continent, being really just taking people's livelihoods and taking their lives. These are discussions that are beginning to become heard in America. If there's a policy structure that you can actually do something about it with, then it becomes much more possible to say, well, yes, let's educate. Let's educate all of our children, not just the privileged children, and not just the white children. Let's educate all of our children. Let's put some money in these accounts for all these children.